All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's chat. So today we have Kyle from Valley to Peak Nutrition back in action and back on the call, which is great. Now, for people who haven't seen Kyle's stuff before, he's been in the group a few times, been a great contributor for many years actually in the group. But basically, what his role is, he's a dietitian who specializes in hikers and backpackers. So people just like you get on their adventures and helping them sort out their nutrition. So basically, we've got him involved to kind of do a bit of a live stream on another nutrition topic. Today, we're going to be talking about protein powder, which is something that comes up quite often. Lots of people ask about it. Lots of people hear lots of things online. They're not really sure what's going on. There's a million and one sort of brands out there, and it can be a little bit confusing. So he's basically going to come on, give us some clear cut information, and hopefully, give a bit of clarity on this subject. So, with that being said, welcome to the stream, mate. Great to have you on.
Yeah, great to be here. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
You want me to
fantastic,
go ahead and
fantastic.
share the screen?
Yeah, I'll just let you. I might have to actually enable that. I forgot to do that before. Cool. So you should be good to go. And yeah, and I'll basically just leave it in your hands and let you take this away.
Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate Rowan having me. I appreciate you guys watching. I have to tell you that, like, as I was preparing for this, it's extremely challenging on how to think a topic like protein powders can be exciting. So there's several things in this that we're going to talk about, and a lot of these have stemmed from questions. Oh, there we go. That I've had over the years, right? So I'm fortunate that I get to interact with so many different people over the course of time. And almost always there's certain questions that pop up around this. So you can type in here. I don't know if I can actually see, maybe Rowan, you can tell me if they do, what you've heard about protein powders. But we did a survey on our social media not long ago, and people piped in about this. And there seems to be several questions that people want to know the most about. They want to know why use them, what's the difference between them, and do I need one? And so that's exactly what we're going to cover today. My hope for you, and I know this is true of Rowan and everybody that's a coach in Summit, is that you leave here with something that you can go apply, right? That it's not just a bunch of information that's really sterile and talks about powders and grams of this and grams of that, but there's actually something in here that you can take and go apply. So like, I'm going to give you a decision making tree to determine if you need one. And if the answer to that ends up being yes, you know how to leave here and how to go buy what you need versus going to the store, looking at this wall of giant barrels and trying to decide, okay, like, what does all of this mean? Casein, protein, hydrolysate, isolate, whey, soy. What does it mean? I want you to be able to have something that you can take away. When it comes to protein powders and why, look at that, centralized for you guys, why would a hiker consider using one? There's really two reasons. One, yeah, because the question that comes up is, oh, I just eat whole foods. Are these superior to whole foods? No. And so then that naturally births the question, well, then why would I use one? And the answer is you wouldn't unless you fall into one of these two categories. Number one, pure convenience. One thing that I hear most often is that some folks who are training for hiking don't have the luxury of living close to a trail. Some people are traveling 2, 3, 4+ hours to go do some of these 4, 5, 6 zone two type, training hikes, these 6 hour training hikes. So they don't have the opportunity to cook something. They don't have a way to keep food cold. So convenience would fit here. It would be nice to just have some protein powder waiting for you to refill your used nutrient stores and to begin that recovery process immediately after that long hike. Convenience is one reason you would opt for a protein powder. Second reason, if you have an extremely high protein need that's difficult to meet with food, a protein powder could help. There's only so much freaking chicken a person can eat. There's only so many eggs a person can eat. There's only so much tuna a person can eat before they just get tired of it. Protein powder is a very easy way to increase your protein intake without taking up a bunch of space in your stomach. So the second reason a person might choose protein powder would be if there's a situation in here where either convenience or their demand is extremely high. There are several, I mean, like I said, when you go to a nutrition store and you look at a wall, it is full of crap. I mean, full, from ranging from different prices to the ingredients that are in a product to ingredients that you have no idea what they mean that are in the product. So when looking at that and me trying to decide, okay, how can I help everyone understand how do proteins differ? There's really three main ways. When it all boils down to it, there's really three main ways that they're different. The source of protein, right? So you could have it from an animal, so like whey protein, for example, or from cows, or you could have a plant-based protein, soy protein, pea protein, all these different proteins. So your source is going to matter. The absorption is going to matter. Some proteins get to your muscles faster than others. We're going to answer the question later. Does that even matter, for one? But that's the difference. You could have three different whey proteins: whey isolate, whey concentrate, whey hydrolysate. And all three of those are going to hit your muscle faster. You will pay for the differences between those two. So companies are charging you based on the perceived speed at which these proteins get into your muscle. So they're categorized by that: source, absorption, and quality. When we talk about quality, we're not necessarily talking about, is there a bunch of fluff in here that is not just protein, which sometimes happens too. We are talking about, does this protein contain all of the building blocks to repair my muscle? Because some don't. One we're going to talk about is collagen, right? Collagen peptides. Everybody got on a big collagen kick a couple of years ago. It doesn't have the complete amino acid profile that some of these other proteins will. So it's important to know what you're buying, not just to determine whether or not you're wasting your money, but to determine whether or not you're even getting what you need inside of your muscle to recover after some sort of a tough endurance hike. So again, this goes back right here. This is the slide that talks about the source, and there's really four main sources: whey, which is derived from a cow; casein, which is also derived from a cow but very slow to digest; plant-based proteins, you can see the examples there. And then you've got another category called other, and that's from companies that have come out with proteins built around, like folks who follow paleo, for example. You can get protein powders that are derived from beef. You can get collagen peptides, etc. So you can look at that wall of proteins and be really confused, but at the end of the day, the sources from which they're coming are really categorized under one of those four places. And here's how they all differ. And you guys can get a copy of the slides from Rowan if you need them. Rowan, let me know, and I'll just send them to you. And the folks that are interested, they can get a copy of them. But here's the table. You've got all of the different types of proteins on one side, the left-hand side of the column. And then up at the top, we're categorizing or breaking down those three topics: source, where does it come from? The rate of absorption, and the quality. Does that protein, remember, quality is basically a synonym for us saying, does this protein have everything in it that my body needs to recover? And as you'll notice that the first two columns really don't change much. Casein is a protein that digests much slower, but the quality is high. Plant-based proteins, they vary, but the quality is moderate to low, and then you've got very low quality over here. And the reason that these are ranked this way is because they do not have the ideal, or they have a subpar quality to animal-based proteins. That's got nothing to do with anything more than it doesn't have all of the building blocks or the ratio of building blocks that you need to repair the muscle. So what does that mean if you happen to fall into someone who is vegan? You don't want to eat any animal-based products. You can still find plant-based products that are high in quality, and absorption rate is very high too. And we'll talk about what that looks like here in a little bit, actually on this slide. When you look at the absorption, how fast they are absorbed into the body, you've got three options. And these move from meh to, when you talk about speed, how fast are they absorbed? Meh. Concentrated, meh. Isolates pretty fast. Hydrolysate is almost instantaneous. Now, what's important to notice is this is a screenshot from one of our we've got FAQ sheets, which is basically fast hitting nutrition facts on different topics. This is the one that comes from proteins and protein powders. And what this is saying is this is a screenshot from Whey, but these categories you can find listed among vegetarian proteins as well. So if you go back to this example and you say, okay, well, I'm vegan and I don't want anything to do with an animal-based protein, that's fine. Pick your plant-based protein and then make sure that it is at least an isolate, not a concentrate. And you can see that what varies here is not only the rate at which it's absorbed, but how much of what's in that bottle is actual protein compared to other crap like fillers and milk proteins and all sorts of other stuff that really aren't anything to do with protein. When you buy isolate, you are buying almost 90% of that product is protein. It's not a bunch of filler. When you buy concentrate, there's a gigantic amount that could be dedicated towards just filler. So when you go to the store and you're costing out these differences, what's the price differences between these? You will find concentrates to be the least expensive. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. But the reason it's cheaper is because it is not all protein. There's a bunch of filler in there. So it's good to know what you're looking for when you go to the store and you're buying some of these things. Digestion speed, as you can see, kind of moves down the rank as well. Now, I tend to recommend isolates because it seems to be the best balance of how much, of the degree of protein that's in there versus other fillers. The digestion speed is moderate. It's not crazy fast. It's not slow. And keep in mind, this being fast is not always an advantage, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Faster is not always better. And spoiler alert, I told you earlier, we're going to try to answer the question, does it matter how fast it hits your muscle? No, it does not matter. So you are paying a lot of money for this for really no significant advantage. And that's important to remember as well. So how do you pick? You run yourself through this decision-making tree. Do I need it? Am I someone who's got a really high protein demand that I struggle to meet with food? Am I someone who needs a convenient source of protein? If the answer to that is no, move on with your life and just keep doing what you're doing. If the answer to either of those is yes, then you can go to number 2. What type do you want? Are you okay with something from an animal-based product? You can choose whey. Are you not? Now you've got to choose, am I going to go with soy, pea, hemp? I mean, the list of options plant-based now is endless. So you've got to decide which of those you want to choose. Then you're going to go to number 3. How much money do I want to spend? Do I want a concentrate, isolate, or hydrolysate? A really digestive one, or don't I? Do I need fast absorbing? We already answered that. The answer to that is no. And then you make the purchase. You just buy it. Then you decide the dose, right? So your dose, of course, is going to be based off of how many grams you need in a day. But really, everything starts with number 1. Do you need it? If you don't fall into one of those 2 categories, convenience or a really high protein demand, the answer to that is no, you don't need anything. You can meet your protein demand with normal food. And I would have you keep in mind as well that the typical recommendation for protein when people are asking about it is 2 grams per kilo or 1 gram per pound. You do not need that much. So most people would say, oh yeah, my protein demand is so high. Probably not. Your recommendation, the calculation seems like it's high, but that's wrong. And so it's important to know what you actually need from a protein intake standpoint before you start dosing it. The second thing to know about dosing protein is you are not dosing it based on your current body weight. You are dosing it based on your lean body weight because remember, we are made of muscle. We are made of water. We are made of body fat. Even the leanest of us all are made of, we have some body fat. We are made of bone. We are made of nutrient stores. We are made of a lot of things. And when we step on a scale, that number that stares us back is a composition of all those things. If you are over the weight that you're comfortable at, you're not trying to dose protein based off of extra body fat. You're trying to dose it based off of lean mass. So the whole point of me explaining all of that to everyone is you should make sure the calculation for your need is right before ever setting out to try to hit 200 grams in a day or whatever. That's insanity. Most people don't need that. So keep in mind that before you try to decide, okay, well, am I one of those people that have a high protein demand? Is my calculation wrong? So this goes to the potential pitfalls of protein powders. And we're going to explore this a little bit because this seems to come up quite a bit, especially here recently. And I told you earlier that faster absorption digestion isn't always a positive thing. So we're going to look at why. Two other potential less likely concerns to the average person is one and two, drug testing. So like if you are an elite level athlete, you're doing ultras, you're doing ski events, you're getting drug tested, that matters. You want to make sure that it passes that inspection, and then obviously other fillers. This third one is more for folks like me, weekend warriors, right? There is a hunger and an absorption issue that happens whenever your intake is coming predominantly from products that contain protein. Protein chips, protein bars, protein balls, protein peanut butter cups, protein powder, this overnight oatmeal full of protein. When you are too busy to eat anything and you think you're meeting your protein demand with bars and powders and whatnot, that can create a problem depending on what your goals are. Right. And so when you look at this slide, what this slide is showing you is the red underlines are basically showing you areas in this example where this person chose to get the third column is protein, chose to get their protein from a bar or something other than actual food. The problem with that is powder is digested very quickly. And when that happens, it empties your stomach very fast. So an hour after you eat, you're hungry. You eat again. And so you end up exceeding calorie intake and or you have a low drop in performance because you're constantly not retaining anything. You're always hungry eating things like that. Second issue with it is you're not just getting protein with these things. And if you look at this example, only 30% of the calories in this actual product are coming from protein, yet it's marketed as a protein product. It's marketed as a protein cookie, and only 30% of it's protein. The rest of it's fat and carbohydrates, which you may or may not need based on your training goals or your weight goals or what have you. If we go back to the previous slide, 70%, or I'm sorry, let me go back to that. Yeah, so 70 plus percent, I think it was like 72% of this has nothing to do with protein at all. So you're missing the ability to really be able to hone in on your intake when you're relying on bars and protein chips and protein cookies and puffs and all this crap that really is very small amounts of protein that's contributing towards your overall daily protein intake. So, big topic, very quick, condensed down, but hopefully helpful. Here's the recap. Can it be helpful? Yes, if you have a high protein demand and or its convenience. The types of protein are going to vary based off of the source, the absorption, and the quality. And really what you need to be deciding is, do you even need one? Are my targets realistic? If the answer to those two things are no, then don't buy one. Just keep eating food. And then you've got number 4, there are pitfalls that exist. And so though powders can be helpful, do not make a vast majority of your intake from a powdered bar, chip, blah, blah, blah. And I would suggest only making 25% or less of it from some kind of protein powder or product like that, and allowing the rest of your protein intake to come from actual whole foods. Now, again, this is a gigantic topic, right? So we have these sheets that are dedicated to different topics. There's some dedicated to carbohydrates, some dedicated to fueling on the trail, some dedicated to fat, they're all just fast-hitting topics on your daily recommendations needs. Like you can see over here how to dose your protein based on lean mass. We talked about that. Talked about all of it, all the point of that being this. if anyone's interested in a copy of this and you've listened to this live, you can email me and I'll send you a free copy of this. But I'll also let you have there's a link where you can go and you can look at all the topics that we've got and the bonus sheets. So if you can buy each individual topic, I think they're $10 a piece, or you can buy the whole bundle, which ends up being 13 for $50, and you get all of these covered in that. And again, the idea here is if you're looking for some information where you just want numbers to go target, then you can do that in here without having all the conversation or me rambling and ranting at you. If you do like the rambling and the ranting and you like the additional conversation and you're wondering how all of these things work together, then we've got a course that dives deeper into that. The course is self-guided. You get lifetime access to it. It's got additional resources to it beyond there's 21 different topics about nutrition in here, and everything is centered on making you the guide of your own nutrition rather than kind of bouncing between Google pages, wondering how things work. Everything is designed so that when you are done, you know exactly what to do and you're educated on the topic entirely. And as you can see down here, if you use Summit code, you save some cash there as well. So hopefully the topic on protein powder has helped. If you're interested in just fast hitting quick sheets, then there's the protein or there's the all of the FAQ fact sheets that we've got. You can see those. But if you're interested in a bit of a deeper dive, then you can check out our course or really any of the resources that we've got here at v2pnutrition.com. That'll save you some cash. And then, of course, you can always send me questions if you've got them as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic, mate. No, that was great, and it's such an interesting subject because we hear about this stuff all the time. We hear about it on like magazines, on Facebook, on Instagram, and this and that. And usually, you just get a tiny, tiny, tiny like little piece of the jigsaw puzzle in a sense, like it's a whole picture, and you just get one little thing which kind of gets pushed to you. So it's quite interesting having it all broken down and sort of like going into that a little bit more intentionally. So yeah, that was really,
Yeah.
really, really useful. So for the people listening, I really do hope that they kind of gave a bit of value, kind of cleared up a few things and this and that. For anyone who's interested in learning more, I would strongly encourage you checking out what Kyle mentioned because he's got some great resources, really, really, really broken down very clearly, and I've had a lot of my hikers get some great value out of work with him. So definitely, definitely recommend it. But aside from that, Kyle, it's been great, great, great having you back on another live call. We'll definitely do another one of these, very, very soon. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and I think it's been great.
Yeah, likewise, Rowan. I appreciate you having me. Always a great group, and people are always interested. And it does make it tough, getting online and even trying to decipher what's on there because almost always the person writing the article's got some sort of stake in it, right? It's like, click here to buy my protein powder. So it's tough to even believe what they've said. Hopefully it helps. And yeah, like I mentioned it earlier, and the email is listed there. But I am more than happy to field questions anyone's got. We've got, podcasts and that you've been on, and I love working with you. But anything we can do to help hikers, do better, perform well, and prepare for the mountains. Love it.
Fantastic, mate. How good.